If you want the exact client attraction system that generates $1 million in profit, not just revenue, pay very, very close attention. Most coaches treat marketing like gambling. They throw money at ads and they create tons of content and they just pray and hope somebody reaches out and buys from them. But here's what they're missing. You don't need more traffic. You actually need better math. And I'm not talking about any complicated math. So if you hate math or feel like you're not good at math, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm talking about very basic kindergarten level math, so simple that my 6-year-old can do it. And when you get the math right, it becomes a vending machine. You put in $1 and you get $5 back out. Simple. And you can do it consistently and predictably. I call it printing money, legally of course. I'm gonna give you the entire system in this video. The calculators, the tracking, the checklist, the whole 9 yards, so you can actually go implement this into your coaching business right away. But there is one metric that's quietly killing your profit, and most coaching businesses don't even know they should be tracking. So first and foremost, let's start with the silent killer metric, and I call it the short rate fallacy. Most businesses celebrate when they get in leads for $5 or $10 or even $20, but they're missing the real math. The short rate is where your money disappears. So let me give you an example. So generally speaking, we actually help clients implement a process called the elevator funnel. And basically what that looks like is this. And the difference is the elevator funnel is, if you think about it, some individuals teach like a low ticket funnel where the people go through an ascension level, right? They start with something, free or low cost, and they upsell them and then they upsell them and they upsell them. These are the stairs, right? All these things work, and in the back end, they sell them a $5,000 plus type of offer, right? That's these stairs. Nothing wrong with it. However, if we're at a hotel and somebody wants to get to the top level faster, you can go up the stairs or you can go up the elevator. Most will go up the elevator. So with your ideal client, they already typically have a problem that they want to solve. Now, again, this doesn't mean low ticket offers don't work, because they do. However, this is just another way to look at it, right? So let's say, for example, they go from, traffic. So this could be your content or this can be your ads. This goes over to a landing page where you give them a big promise. They give you their name, email, and phone number for this big promise. They go over to what we call a money content video, because I believe the best way to prove to people you can help them is by actually helping them. So that's what we're going to do in this money content video, right? And then some people say, well, Marquel, how do you stop from teaching too much when they won't buy your thing? I'm like, well, if you think you can teach too much, you just don't know enough, and you need to just get better, because you can't teach too much if you're a legit expert, which is a whole nother video for another time, right? So right here, this money content video, we're going to prove to them we can actually help them by actually helping them, not trying to hold back, actually over delivering. And then we're going to invite them to go deeper. So they're going to click the button below and they're going to apply to work with you. They're going to go over to an application. We're going to answer a series of questions, right? And then they're going to go over to what we call a shock and awe page, right? So this is just it, big picture. I got a whole nother video where I break this down more in depth on the channel, but I'm gonna just keep this super simple, high level from here. Now, here's what I want you to look at. A couple metrics that we track when we're doing this. From your ad, we're going to track click-through rates. When they come to your landing page, we're going to track opt-in, right? From here, we're going to track application percentage. When they get to your money content page, we want to track how many people are applying. And then, of course, we had the shock and awe page. But the most important thing is here. Well, not the most important thing, but one of the big things is the phone call, right? So how many people, after they apply, actually show up to your call, right? So for example, somebody might get excited about getting $100 book calls. You're like, oh my God, we're getting people to book calls with us for $100. Fantastic. But let's just say you get people to book a call for $100, but only 20% show up for the call. Right? Now, if you compare that to a $300 book call, but you're getting an 80% show rate, which is actually cheaper and better. From a total capital allocation standpoint, because you're burning time with these people who are showing up, it's great, but the other 80% time was still allocated for those individuals. Now you pay a little bit more, right? But you're getting 4 times as many people showing up. And now we can dial this in and scale this. So now let me give you an example of a client named Destiny. So she was getting tons of book calls coming in from her organic content, wasn't even paying for ads, but a lot of them weren't showing up, and she was selling a really low ticket offers, $97 per month. Typically $97 per month type offer, they're gonna stay about 90 days. We actually went in, we changed our messaging, we changed our positioning, and we actually turned that $97 per month program to a $3,500 program. Her show rates went up and her close rates went up. And of course her revenue and her profit went up, and her amount of time that she worked went down. That's the power of implementing this system into your business. So you wanna make sure you're tracking all these numbers. Not only how much am I paying for a lead, how much am I paying for a book call, but what is my show up rate for these book calls? What is my offer rate, right? Based on these ones that showed up, what percentage of people did we make an offer? Because if your offer rate is lower than 80%, especially lower than 50%, that means you have a lead quality issue. Now, most coaches don't track any numbers, especially not these numbers. And this is a big reason they stay stuck and can't get to the $1 million mark. And they stay stuck in that $20,000 to $50,000 per month range. Now, let's talk about the $1 million math formula. This is where you stop guessing your ad budget. Because a big question I get is, Marco, how much should I spend on ads? Well, I'm like, well, it depends. And that's obviously a question to answer that individuals deals normally like. It depends, but it really actually does. But the big thing is you want to start with your revenue target and then we want to work backwards. So on a baseline level, we want to look at revenue goal divided by average deal size equals enrollments required. Told you this is basic math, right? So then we're going to look at enrollments required divided by enrollment rate equals calls required divided by show rate equals leads required divided by conversion rate equals traffic required. Now, let me give you a simple tool that our clients use to actually implement this in a lot simpler way. Because you're like, okay, Marquel, that math is kind of crazy. Let me show you a simple tool that we use. And by the way, if you message me on Instagram, my Instagram is just Marquel Russell, MarquelRussell. Let me know that you actually saw this particular video and that you want to do the math scorecard, and I'll get this over to you so you can implement it to your business. All right, no strings attached. I got you. So now, if I'm working with a client and we're looking at, all right, cool, what's the goal? So let's just say, for example, the goal is $1 million, right, for the year. So that means they need to make $83,333.33 per month, and they make $19,230.77 per week, right? And let's say their offer is $20,000. That means they only require 50 clients for the year, okay? So let's say, so that's only 4 clients a month, 4.17, but you can't get a 0.17 client, right? And you need 0.96 clients a week. You can't get a 0.96 client, but you get what I'm saying. So that means if we go off of 1% opt-in percent, meaning 1% of their leads become a client, that means they require 5,000 leads a year. That might seem like a big number, but you break it down. 416 leads per month. Then you take that 916 leads per week, and then we go 96 divided by 7 days in a week. Boom, you require 13.7 leads per day, which is about 14 leads per day, right? Now, of course, if your numbers are a little lower, let's say your offer is 10,000, right? You see the numbers double, right? If your offer is 5,000, boom. If your offer is 50,000, you know, the numbers adjust, right? So you get to choose what you charge based on the value that you actually provide for your ideal clients. So you might be watching this and be like, hey, Marquel, I probably should increase my price. And I would be thinking you probably should as well. So do that right now. Now, here's the beautiful thing and why this eliminates the feast and famine. You control the inputs, and at some level you control the outputs. But a big part is you can control the inputs, the amount of traffic, the amount of lead flow, the amount of throughput that you're putting through the system. You always don't have control over the enrollment rates, the show rates, people who buy, that type of thing. Some of those are variables there, right? But you can actually control the inputs on the front end. That's what makes the system so powerful. And this is also how you go from hoping for results to actually engineering the results. And now you can make this a system that's done predictably and consistently. Now let's talk about the qualification filter where you repel the wrong people. Here's the reality. If you're attracting everyone, you're attracting no one. So your marketing should actually be repelling 3 times as much as it's actually attractive. You want to implement the velvet rope strategy where you make it harder to work with you, not easier. Now, I made this mistake in full transparency. I was creating all these different offers and, you know, making all these different concessions for like, okay, what about the people who can't afford to pay with us just yet? Let's create something for them. And then what about the people who ain't ready for that program? Let's create something for them. And now we had all these different programs, all these different fulfillment, all these different things, all these different moving pieces, and we're just making the business more complicated just to appease the people who just weren't ready for us just yet. So it's like, let's just let them do what they have to do to get ready for us, and then we can serve them at the ideal level when they come on board. Think about it. When you go to the club, everybody can't get in VIP. Ferrari only produces a certain amount of cars every year. The last time I checked, they produce 13 to 14,000 cars per year because they know everybody isn't their ideal client. Now, on the flip side, you got Toyota, who's focusing on mass market volume, and they're producing 9 to 10 million cars every year. It's a total different game. Now, do you want to be the Toyota in your marketplace, or do you want to be the Ferrari? It's up to you. But here's the reality. People tend to devalue what they can easily get access to. And guess what? They're willing to pay a premium for it. So you want to have specific qualification mechanisms in place that filter for your serious ideal clients. And what's the specific criteria? I know to work with us, having the money to invest is the minimum requirement. We have other levels of requirements that individuals have to meet before they can work with us. Like, are they action takers? Do they need hand holding and babysitting? If so, they're not going to be our ideal client. But are they action takers? Do they implement? Do they show up? Do they provide an amazing service? Are they committed? Those type of things that we're actually looking for when we're working with clients. Individuals will say they're the things, but we can actually see through the process that we actually take them through to become a client. So I will give an example of my client, Gerald. Gerald actually, he works with individuals who are looking to get a pay raise in corporate. And he had a flood of book calls coming through. He had some criteria on his application page that people had to review before booking the call. This cut down the amount of bookings he was getting, but it increased his show up rate and it increased his monthly revenue as well, just by adding his qualification filter. So your application actually becomes your first sales conversation and does a lot of pre-qualification for you. And on the application, of course, it's figuring out financial capacity, commitment level, and decision-making authority. The reality is this. I said financial capacity first, but it's actually the least because because the reality is some people come to the call not intending to buy. They might just be vetting you out to see if it's a good fit. However, with the right offer and you showing that you can actually help them, they will leave the call actually enrolled into your program. Because people who are committed, they will figure out the money. Money is just logistics. Most coaches are afraid to repel people simply because they're in lead poverty. They don't have an abundance of lead flow coming in. When you have an abundance of lead flow and you have more demand than you can possibly fulfill on, you aren't afraid to repel less than ideal clients. But individuals who are in lead poverty, they're doing everything possible to close somebody. They're lowering their prices. They're doing everything possible to get somebody to buy from them. They're giving discounts. They're doing 3-year payment plans. They're doing all the things, jumping through hoops to get somebody to buy. And that's when a place of desperation, and you don't want to build your business from that place. Now, seeing this formula is one thing, but building it for your specific business is another. If you're generating leads, but the math isn't adding up to consistent revenue and profit, there's a link in the description section where you can book a strategic scale session. We'll audit your current marketing funnel and plug in these numbers for you completely for free. Now, the last point is the feedback loop. This is the optimization system. The difference between a 6-figure business and a 7-figure business is the speed of optimization. Here's the tricky part though. The iteration knocks most individuals out of the game because they were trying to get everything perfect from the beginning. And now once that ad campaign or that video doesn't convert, these things, they put all this time in to make it perfect. And now it's time to do some iteration. It knocks them out the game because they thought this thing was quote unquote and perfect doesn't exist. That's why we're always optimizing. Even when you think about the iPhone, Apple is always optimized. This is why at the time of me doing this video, we don't like Apple 17 because over the years, they're continuously optimizing. They're launching, they're getting a minimal viable opportunity. They're getting it launched and they're getting feedback and they're making adjustments. And this is why they're a $3 trillion company at the time of me doing this video. So like I showed you earlier, there's multiple stages in your marketing funnel. And so this is multiple opportunities for money to leak. And most people never find these leakages. So it's just a slow leak over time. So you want to read your data like a profit detective because patterns reveal everything. So let me give you an example. I told you we have a metric for every part of this process, right? So we want to see a 1% at least click-through rate on the ad. We want to see a 20% opt-in rate on the landing page. We want to see a 10% application rate. We want to see 70% of these individuals showing up for the call, at least 70% at least on the low end showing up for the call. And you want to have at least 20% of them getting on the phone to actually enroll. These are like low ballpark numbers so we can see where do we optimize. Now, anywhere we don't see that happening, we got red, and then we got a profit lead. If we go here, we know we got a profit lead. Some people, just because individuals aren't closing at the correct rate, they'll kill the whole marketing campaign. And it's like, well, just because people aren't buying at the rate, it might not be your ad campaign. So that's why we got to look at everything step by step and see the pattern and be willing to be honest and say, okay, it's actually me in the process, because that closing process is usually you or a salesperson on your team, and you have to be willing to own that I am the problem here. And unfortunately, most people aren't willing to do that. Now, this is where the compound effect kicks in, because these small improvements at each stage creates exponential results. And this is just extra profit without any more extra marketing put in, just because you took time to make these optimizations. This is why you want to be tracking this data so you will know when to make necessary adjustments. And again, most business owners aren't making data-driven decisions. They're making decisions solely based on how they feel. And this is why I said it and forget it, marketing systems leave millions on the table, because you can have something when it's cranking, but if you're not checking the things can happen. It could be seasonal, it could be tech. I've had conversations with clients and we was looking at her funnel. So I had a conversation with a client named Jice one time, right? We was at an event and we were looking at her marketing system, and she was like, nobody's booking calls. So we was looking at, so most people were like, all right, well, let me just send more leads through it. Let me do this. Let me just rebuild my whole funnel. We actually went through the whole thing, and guess what happened? Lo and behold, her button under her video was broken. So people couldn't click the button and go apply. We fixed that right on the spot, and guess what happened? People start booking calls. But most individuals would miss this because they aren't taking the time, they aren't looking at the data. The reason we're able to check this, and I asked her that because she had data to show and was able to go through the numbers and see where the breakdown is, and was able to zoom in and fix it. So you want to treat your marketing funnel like a living, breathing system that always requires tuning. So here's the complete system recap: the right metrics, reverse engineer your budget, qualify aggressively, and optimize relentlessly. And this transforms your marketing from gambling to engineering. This is what takes a coach from being a 6-figure coach to having a 7-figure or multiple 7-figure coaching company. It's levels to it. So here's your next action step: start tracking the one metric that matters most. And again, if you don't got any dashboards or anything to like put these things in place and you want the spreadsheet, like I said, shoot me a message, Marquel Russell on Instagram, and I got you. Now, here's what most people mess this up: the qualification filter. You now have the exact system that generated millions of dollars for my clients and our companies. But here's the reality: you can spend months trying to build this yourself, or you can have my team and I help you install the system into your business in the next 10 days or less. If you want us to audit your existing marketing funnel and build your custom system, click the link in the description for a free strategic scale session. And if you want proof this actually works, watch my breakdown with Smitty, where I show how he uses this exact process to scale his business to multiple 7 figures. You'll see the real numbers, the timeline, everything behind the scenes. Go watch it right now.